For me, I think it's completely outdated, and we really need to change how we approach educating our children. I mean, the system itself is predicated on the memorization of information, and information is everywhere at the click of a button. The real problem with schools for me is that they've always taught and still teach children what to think. They don't really teach them how to think. Schools should be fun environments where children can really express themselves and play and explore, but instead we have this very kind of work-like atmosphere, where there's rules and they're enforced by authority figures, and there's always the threat of punishment looming. So this kind of environment just isn't the ideal environment to create kind of growth, It's a perfect environment, however, to create little workers and people who are obedient and who always follow the rules and who don't think outside the box, So if we go right back to the beginning, for hundreds and thousands of years, kids would self-direct, they would play, they would learn in nature, and they would just grow themselves, They'd be left to their own devices very much. But then, over the years, with agriculture and later the growth of industry, what we found was they found the need for schools to create these children into little workers, They wanted to create the kind of environment where children could get used to tedious, repetitive work. So originally schools weren't designed for children to really grow and express themselves. Schools were created so that these children would become obedient workers and become good factory workers and good farmers and this kind of thing, So if you look at the system then and look at it now, it actually hasn't changed that much. For me, I find it uncanny when you look at the prison system and you compare it to the school system. Some people think that comparison is outlandish, but I don't think so. I mean, you've got authority figures everywhere who are always threatening to punish if you break rules. There's also the sound of that bell, when that bell goes, you're told when to start working. When it goes again, you're told when to stop working. Then you eat at the sound of a bell and you stop eating again at the sound of the bell. So this is just creating that kind of obedient kind of mindset, very similar to what they have in the prison system. And also, obviously, when these kind of kids leave school to go into the real world, they're not used to thinking for themselves. They're not used to doing what they want when they want. They're used to doing what they're told when they're told, Children, naturally, they want to play and explore and have fun and create. This is their nature. This is coming from hundreds and thousands, if not millions of years of evolution. So when we try to drum down that creativity and we try to force them to follow rules, just like they didn't adapt quickly to working in the fields and working in factories, they also don't respond positively to strict kind of regulations and rules in the school environment. This is why kind of punishment became such a big part of the school system, because children would continuously rebel. Their natural instincts would always tell them, to question authority and to think for themselves. So punishment became a really big part of the schooling system, and it still is today. I mean, just look at detention. What message does that give children when they're breaking rules or when they're speaking up or when they're being too creative, that they're punished for this and that they're confined in a room and they're not allowed to leave until they're told, We're just sending out completely the wrong message to children. In some schools, children were allowed breaks where they could play, but play was never considered an important part of learning, and today I would say that again hasn't really changed. And this is reflected in John Wesley's rules for Wesleyan schools, which includes this statement: "As we have no play days, so neither do we allow any time for play on any day. For he that plays as a child will play as a man." And I really think that this is one of the reasons why the world is in such a mess today, because we as adults have lost touch with our inner child. The school place is very much a place for work, where rules and strict laws, where it should be a place for play and growth, where creativity is encouraged, In these days, when children leave college or school, they're almost left with zero tools with which to take on the world and take on real life, I mean, you only have to ask yourself a few questions. There's some serious life skills that are lacking. I mean, anyone that leaves college today, to my mind, certainly I was in this position when I left. I didn't know how to save money. I didn't know how to handle myself in interviews. I didn't know how to survive in the wilderness. I didn't know how to grow my own food. I had no idea about how to handle rejection. I had no idea about how to handle love or relationships or deal with my own mental health problems. Another big one is I never knew who Nikola Tesla was. This guy was responsible for so much that we enjoy and experience today in the form of technology and inventions, and he's never taught about in schools, and he's a very, very important figure in history. Another big one is mindfulness, the practice of meditation and yoga. This should be taught throughout schools at all ages, especially from a very young age. Children who are being wrongly diagnosed with ADHD or learning disorders, all these kids need is a creative outlet. They just need some people to really, really care about them so that their creativity can flourish, They don't need to be suppressed, they don't need to be controlled or given medication and dumbed down. The importance of diet and nutrition is a very big thing for me. We're taught at a very young age just to have 3 meals a day, to eat bread, to eat dairy, to consume all this kind of food that isn't natural, and it took me till I was the age of 30 to really question the food I was eating, and my parents were never taught differently, so I was only learning what they were told, So it's up to this generation really to kind of question things and think for ourselves. We can't rely on our parents to teach us what's right or wrong, because they too were educated by the same system that we were taught by ourselves so wrongly. I understand that a lot of people watching this might be thinking that everything I'm saying should be the parents' responsibility, and I actually agree with you. Parents do need to take a much more active role in their children's education, but we need to understand, like I mentioned, that our parents were educated by the same system that we're educated by, so they don't know that much better than what we know, So we can't recycle old bad traditions and keep recycling bad knowledge. We need to take a step outside of the box and think for ourselves and question everything for ourselves, We need to really be the inspiration for children. We need to stand up against authority or stand up against things that are wrong, and we need to organise and communicate better and really be the inspiration for children today. We need to get these messages of truth out to schools. We need to help our own children think freely, encourage your children to find things that they love doing, things that they're passionate about, and encourage them in that direction, And, questioning everything is a big thing for me. I have young children of my own, and I'm always asking them or encouraging them to question everything, even to question me, because I think that even sometimes I'm going to be wrong, and it's important that my children understand that, and I want them to grow up, and I want them to tell me things that I've done wrong and to educate me. There's a really great quote by a guru called Sadhguru. It says that when a child comes into your life, it's time to relearn life, not teach them your ways. And this really resonates deeply with me, because when my children were born, it forced me to look at myself and to see what was wrong with me and what was wrong with things that I've learned in life, and to try to not teach them things that I learned in life, to try to let them teach me so that I can be a better person. I recently watched a TED Talk by a Dr. George Land, who conducted an experiment for NASA engineers. He was testing their creativity and their ability to solve problems. And the test was so successful that they decided to apply it to children as well. So they took it to 1,600 4 and 5-year-olds, and the figures that they found shocked them. They found that an amazing 98% of children fell into the genius bracket. They then done the same test on the same children 5 years later, and this number plummeted to 30%. And it went down a further 18% to 12% by the age of 15. And unfortunately, by the time you become an adult, only 2% fall into that genius bracket. So this really shows how creativity is crushed by the education system, We really need to change the way that we approach education. This means that parents need to relearn how they approach the education system, myself included. I embrace this challenge, and I put this challenge to all of you watching this to start to think outside the box when it comes to your children. So we need to be the inspiration for our children. We need to encourage their creativity, find out what they're passionate about and push them in that direction. We need to be the change that we wish to see in the world. We need to be the inspiration for our children and for ourselves. So to end with, I'm going to leave you with this ancient Greek proverb: a society grows great when old men plant trees whose shade they know they shall never sit in. So let's all together start planting trees. Thank you. So I want to thank you for watching my content. If you've been at all educated or inspired by this video, please support me by subscribing on YouTube, by following on Instagram, following us on Facebook, all at the handle Educate, Inspire, Change. And I'm also creating a Patreon page where you can support me much more directly. I'm going to be much more actively involved in filmmaking and creating documentaries, so as you know, there's obviously costs involved for that, so any help there would be appreciated. I'm devoting my life now to educating and inspiring people. I've found my calling, this is my passion, this is what I want to do, forever, so all your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you.